I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys. I really hate doing this style, but it is still one of the top requested styles on the menu, so we are not going to pass up that bag, sis. And today I'm going to show you guys exactly how I do this style, which is the full goddess look from beginning to end. And I'm also going to share with you my tips and tricks for maintaining the flyaways and keeping those curls nice and neat. So if you want to see how we achieve this look, make sure you stay tuned. Alright, jumping into the video, this is the hair we're going to be using. It's the Freetress 301 brand, and I have one pack in the 18-inch and another pack in the finished 28-inch because we're going to use the short side for the back of the head and we're going to use the longer lengths for the top of the head. And of course for the curls, we're going in with the Freetress Deep Wave crochet hair, and I found this really cool new ombre color, so we're excited about that. We're going to put this as a pop of color in the back, and the rest is going to be that too in the front. Here's my client's hair, all washed and conditioned and ready for prep for these braids. She is a natural 4C, but her density is on the medium side, and she also has a very soft texture to the touch, so getting through this won't be too difficult. And of course we're going in with the Revlon paddle dryer. If you struggle with blow drying your hair, you have to get one of these. It is a total game changer and will make the drying process so much easier. So I've already completed the bottom portion of her hair where we did the color at the bottom, and this is what it's going to look like. It's going to kind of be like a peekaboo at the bottom as well. Also take note that the parts are larger than what I typically offer as far as medium goes. She wanted them to be a little bit more on the larger side, so I did change the parting map up a little bit more for it to be larger for her. So I guess it would be between large and medium, I guess. I know medium is between small and medium, so what would you call the in between large and medium? I don't know. Y'all let me know. And this part is for those of you who like to follow along, brush up on those skills if you must. And this is how you start a knotless braid. When I do one-on-ones, people tend to have the concept down, but they don't quite understand that you have to maintain grip in the middle of that braid, because that's what's going to hold the braid together as you move down. So a lot of times people get scared or they don't put enough emphasis on their grip. You can't be afraid to grip that braid, because that's what's going to keep it in place. That's what's going to maintain the shape of the braid. So if you find yourself struggling, it really might be your grip, and it's something you're going to have to practice and work on. Grip is also very important for things like stitch braids and cornrows. Grip is also very important for tucking, as I'm demonstrating here. You want to maintain a nice, tight, firm grip in the middle of that braid, and then just wrap the braiding hair around the natural hair. For the full goddess look, we're going to insert the curly pieces halfway down the braid, and just like you would do a normal feed in, you're doing the same thing with the curly pieces. But we're going to do a couple of rotations down before we clip one side of the curly piece out of the way and continue braiding. You're just going to keep doing this until you've added in as much as you desire. Can this be done with human hair? Yes, it can be done with human hair. It's just that the finishing process is going to be a little bit different. I prefer to do the synthetic way, because when you cut all this hair out, it's a lot easier to throw away than to throw away some human hair that you spent a lot of money on. I also, in my opinion, feel like it's a lot easier to maintain, but to each its own. I also don't offer the human hair look because it is difficult for me to source the hair, especially if it's not being requested on a consistent basis. And if I'm going to offer that kind of service, I definitely want to make sure that the products that I use are top quality. To tie the ends, I'm just going to grab all of the hair in one hand, my left hand, and then I'm going to pull a small piece of the curly hair around the braid and tie it off. I'm doing a loop tie. I guess that's what you call it. I don't know, but been doing it this way for years. And I like to do multiple ties to give it that extra security. And add a little dot of glue on the top of the knot, the bottom of the knot, and the middle of the knot, just for extra security. And then I clip it out of the way so that it gives it some time to dry in place. Now, I don't know what happened to this clip, but I do clip the straight ends off the bottom of the braid. This is another reason why it's important to use the correct length of braiding hair. That way it tapers at the end nicely and you don't have to snip off too much of the ends, because you know you have those straight ends at the bottom. So that's another reason I tie with the curly piece, so that I don't have to cut that tie and I'm only cutting the straight ends of the braid that's tied underneath it. Now that I'm all finished, I'm going in and trimming the ends to make sure that we have that peekaboo at the bottom. And I'm going to go in with my favorite mousse for synthetic hair, this one right here. And we're going to add a generous amount of that throughout the curly pieces of the hair. You basically want to clump the curls together a lot like you would for a wash and go, because that's what's going to keep them from frizzing up over time. The best way I found to maintain this style is to gather the hair into either a high bun or a low bun and cover it with a scarf or a bonnet, especially when you're sleeping. I'm sure as much as you want to play in it, I strongly advise keeping your hands out of it as much as possible. Yes, you can swim with it, and yes, you can wash it. Just follow these same steps after washing and let it air dry. And of course, the beauty of this style, if the curls at the top of the braid get a little unruly, you can simply cut them off. So basically, if your curls look like a rat's nest, you probably aren't following any of these steps. Normally at the end of the braiding process, we'll dip the braids to soften them and lay down those flyaways. But in this case, we can't do that, because if you dip the curls in hot water, they will relax the curls and ruin the style. So instead, what I like to do is go in with a flat iron and just go over each braid with the flat iron and soften those flyaways and soften up the braid itself. And it gives you the exact same effect without ruining the curls. Now, you can use any flat iron to achieve this. However, what's most important to note is that you do not want the heat to go above 350 degrees. If you go above 350 degrees, you are at risk of burning the hair completely through, and then you completely ruin the braid. So make sure that the iron that you're using doesn't go above 350 degrees. This one I'm using is one of the cheapies that you can get from the beauty supply store. They usually come in like sets of 2 for like 20 bucks. They only go up to 350, 400 at the most, and they're typically made for synthetic hair. So these come in really, really handy. But if you're using a traditional digital one, make sure it doesn't go above that 350 mark, and make sure you test the braid first before you go in. So here's the completed look. I really thought when this style hit the scene a couple of years ago, it would just be a phase, but clearly it is here to stay. I myself actually wear goddess styles all the time. I love the look. I'm just not the biggest fan of doing it, because it does require more time, products, and skill to complete. So really, I usually won't do a full head without an extra pair of hands. Well, anywho, as always, if you learned something, give this video a big thumbs up and tell a friend. All tools and products used will be listed in the description box below. And if you're new here, make sure you consider subscribing for more content like this every week. Thanks so much for stopping by, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.